Cruel King and the Great Hero on the PlayStation 4. This is the second video of a game that I purchased recently. Actually, I purchased it last year in 2023, and I'm finally getting around to playing it. I decided to spend a whole bunch of Thanksgiving weekend playing a few games that I had lying around and meant to get around to beating. Unfortunately, that usually meant playing a bunch of Seven Sins, the Seven Deadly Sins, and not a whole lot else. I was supposed to play a whole bunch of games so I can get them out of my backlog. In my previous video was a research stream, so I'm going to try and make a bit more progress here before I decide if I want to keep playing this game. We're going to go home. Alrighty then. So this is the Jane of the Dragon thing? Oh, don't get to see the character ride the dragon. Oh well. Well, we're going to bed. Yeah, I don't really know what to expect from this thing. It looks like they're kind of trying to do a Paper Mario thing. Only, I mean, okay. Could you get away with making a Paper Mario-like game without having the Mario universe? Well, if you have really good combat, sure, but this might not be the situation here. I played this game like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I barely remember it. But it was on sale at GameStop, so I decided to pick it up because I figured at some point it will be worth selling. And I can use the money to buy No Man's Sky on the PlayStation 4 like I meant to do last month when I was visiting the retro game store. Because the reason I sold... Hold on.
ユウは寝床で今日の出来事を王様ドラゴンに興奮気味に話します。王様ドラゴンはユウの話を微笑ましげに聞いています。そういえばね、とユウは困った様子の小狐のことを話します。それを聞いた王様ドラゴンは、困った人を助けるのは立派な勇者の務めだよ。ユウのパパも困った人たちをよく助けていたものだ。と目を閉じて昔を懐かしむように語ります。
Okasa, right? Not Oji-san, Okasa. I forget the Japanese word for Papa.
ねえお父さん、明日も村に行っていい？ユウはもし小狐がまだ困っていたら手を貸してあげたいと言います。それはいい。ぜひそうしてあげなさい。王様ドラゴンも賛成します。その後、ユウはいつものように勇者のお話を聞きながら眠りにつきました。明日は村で人助け。一体どんな冒険がユウを待ち受けているでしょうか。ユウは昨日見かけた小狐を探しに村までやってきました。あの小狐さん、今日もいるかな？当てはありませんでしたが、とにかく村中を探してみることにします。
I guess I should make a... Well, it doesn't matter what kind of save I make. We have a ground zero save. We have a regular save. Haven't played this game for more than a year, apparently. No idea. Well, chapter 2, then. So, actually, there's a map, isn't there? Search for a fox. Does it matter where I go exactly? It's right there. Well, that's helpful. At the title screen, you probably saw that this game uses the Lua. I think Lua is a programming language, or it might be an interpreted language. Which I only mention because I want to say there are some video games that have been made using interpreted languages. And I want to say Jax, without getting too technical, Jax and Daxter, way back on the PS2, I believe was a video game that was made using an interpreted language. Without getting too fancy about it, like I said, there are a lot of video games back when I was a kid on the NES. They were made using machine language. Basically, you were basically telling a screen, draw this color on this pixel, on this dot on your screen. Move this pixel this direction. Move this pixel that direction. Take this controller and move the character this many pixels when the person puts their thumb on the controller. That kind of thing. You know, gravity was determined based on that stuff. And that's machine language. That's assembly language. It's very fast, but it's incredibly abstract. And a lot of the languages, and I learned a bit of that when I was in university. And I want to say, I forget when I want to say in the late 90s, we started seeing more software development using C and languages like that, which are compiled languages. They're languages that could be written in English, unlike machine language. They're written using human words, and they're about moving variables. They're about creating variables and assigning values to variables and moving them around, basically. And that was compiled to a machine language that could then be run on the computer you were using, or the game console in this case. And I think Jax and Daxter was interesting because that was an interpreted language. And without getting too fancy about it, interpreted languages, or if people who are familiar with Python, Perl, those are interpreted languages. They're written in English too, but they're one level removed from compiled languages. They still use the same rules of creating variables and moving data around, but interpretation is one level removed from compiled languages. So they tend to be slower than a lot of compiled languages like C and C++, but interpreted languages can be more human friendly in terms of how their grammar works. So I guess the best way to describe it is that these interpreted languages were made so that human beings were better able to process software development. Because don't get me wrong, assembly language is incredibly powerful if you know what you're doing. But it is super duper abstract. I would never recommend it to anyone unless you were hardcore like a computer science nerd, like I kind of was back in the day. And if you're a software engineer, you're ahead of the game. You got a lot more potential than a lot of people do. But software development that creates video games, these days you're probably taking a framework and building your game around a framework. You can do that with a lot of different things. So where are we going? We got a scrapbook. So remember to revisit it even if you get lost. Selecting a quest. So we are hoarding quests at this point. I wasn't playing. This is a highly inappropriate discussion to have during a game like this. But when I saw that they were using Lua, I heard someone was. I think it was on Twitter, or it might have been on somewhere else on the internet. Someone mentioned that a video game was developed entirely using Lua. I've never touched Lua, so I can go on the internet and read more about it because I'm curious how it's even used. Because I mean, there are lots of interpreted languages that are used for all kinds of fun stuff. When I was a young developer, I learned about Python because it was presented as an easier way to learn about graphical user interfaces. You know, menus, windows, things like that. Because most of the programming I did was low-level software engineering, like setting up data structures, moving data around, doing logic. You can still do that using Python, but the point is that it was introduced to me as a way to handle, you know, use menus and things like that. Because when I was using C++, it was terrible for doing dialogue management. Obviously, you can do that elsewhere. I'll show you that. I'll explain that later.
小狐を見つけたユウは力になるよと小狐に声をかけます。コンコンコンと涙目でユウに訴えかける小狐。小狐さんの家族が病気にかかって大変なの？コクコクとうなずき 小狐は詳しい話を聞かせてくれました。小狐とその家族は氷月の丘で暮らす雪狐の一族です。ある日、弟狐が突然熱を出して寝込んでしまいます。それが悪い熱病だと気づいた時にはもう手遅れ。すごい速さで家族全員に病気が広まってしまったのでした。小狐にも熱病が移り、熱に苦しみます。そんな時、どこからか風に乗って薄桃色に光る一片の花びらが飛んできました。その花びらが小狐に触れたところ、嘘のように熱病が治ったのです。びっくりした小狐は他の家族にも花びらを触れさせてみましたが、光が失われている花びらでは病気を治すことはできないようでした。桃色に光る花を見つければ家族の病気を治せる。そう考えた小狐は光る花の手がかりを求めて村までやってきます。
Is there an autoplay? No.
そしていろんな人に話を聞きましたが、光る花のことは分かりませんでした。でもなんとか不思議な森の噂を教えてくれる村人を見つけたのです。
Music's very good, actually.
不思議な森の名前は花咲く森。とても寒い氷月の丘のどこかにある森なのに、不思議なことにとても暖かく、たくさんの花が咲き乱れているという。こんな不思議な森に咲く花なら、病気を治す不思議な花が咲いていてもおかしくはない。小狐を治した花びらはきっとその森から風に乗って飛んできたに違いないと、その村人は言うのでした。なるほどね。一理あるかな。ユウはふむふむとうなずきます。小狐は花咲く森を探すのを手伝ってほしいとユウにお願いします。ユウはもちろん引き受けます。うん、早くしないと小狐さんの家族が危ないもんね。一緒に探そう。コンコーンと小狐は大喜び。
Hayaku means hurry up, right?
あ、そうだ。小狐さんのお名前はなんて言うの？小狐はコンコと名乗りました。コンコって言うんだね。私はユウって言うの。よろしくね。こうしてユウとコンコは桃色に光る花を求めて花咲く森を探すことになったのでした。
Yeah, the music is very good so far, so I want to see if I can sample more of that later. I was whining earlier. What was I saying? Yeah, I was introduced to Python for doing menus and for doing menus, graphical user interface stuff. So anything where a user has to click on something to make some computer stuff happen in the background, that kind of stuff. Perl was also introduced to me as a way of handling a lot of text. In my case, I was using it to convert sloppily formatted screenplays and things of that sort into a database format that I can then reformat. The idea was to convert a text file into something that's more acceptable, it's basically what's used for text formatting. I would take some really sloppy data, some really sloppy screenplays that were improperly formatted, reformat them by parsing the text, and then reformat it so that it was in the proper format, like screenplay-worthy format. The idea being that with the proper formatting, you can take text that's not properly designed and reformat it so that it's properly set up. Hollywood screenwriting has particular rules, and I set up this program to convert some of my old screenplays into traditional Hollywood formatting without retyping them from scratch. What else? There are also ways to format. For instance, if you create databases, you can take the data, a text database, a flat file. You can take that data and convert it into a format that's more acceptable for, say, a website. So imagine if you had a catalog of all the video games I owned, and I wanted to know all the platforms they were on and how much money they cost. I can convert that data into an HTML file, which can be displayed on a website. You can use Perl for that kind of thing. Text processing is very powerful in Perl. I believe Python's pretty good at doing it too these days. I think data scientists use Python too, but I don't do much data science, but I can do a lot of database management. So for people who are wondering, hey, I'm a nerd and I want to get into computer stuff, I would not recommend software development unless you're really, really into it. But if you want to get your hands dirty, I'd recommend using some database development. Do some SQL stuff. You have video games, make a database of all the games you own. Make a database of all the anime you've seen. Make a database of all the movies you've seen. Compile it into a format that can be processed. Use programming languages to reformat it so that it looks nice. You can use Microsoft Excel for that, honestly, and then convert the Excel files to like text files, comma delimited text files, for example. Then you can muck around with that, and you can use SQL database software to do the rest. If you want to get fancy, you can start messing around with Python to do all kinds of database creation. When I was a kid, I used Visual Basic to create databases for all the video cassettes I was taping. So I had like, oh, this episode of DuckTales was on this videotape. This episode of Darkwing Duck is on this videotape. This is how long it is. This is how much blank space I can use to record over all my old cartoons, that kind of thing. I was making databases when I was a teenager. And I was using Microsoft Access back then, which is fine for like small businesses, but it's not really appropriate for high-level SQL development, I've been told. But if you know how to make databases with Access, you can make databases you can make bigger databases using the concepts you've learned. But we're not going to talk about that yet. Let's actually play a video game about whacking enemies with a Deku stick. Let's play a video game where a girl whacks enemies with a Deku stick. Let's play that kind of video game. Now, is this a good game? I reserve judgment. It's way less expensive than Paper Mario was. But I tend to believe a kid won't want to play this when they can play Super Mario and when they can play Paper Mario instead. But you know what? This is probably a better game than Mario Luigi, huh? I've heard people have been clowning that game all month. Just relentless. Waggity waggity. So did the heart show how much health the enemy has? That makes sense. I'm sure you could make a combat system like this in a RPG Maker. I've been meaning to get around to doing that because I have RPG Maker over there. It might be something I do over the holiday, over the Christmas, New Year's, end of the year bit. Because I keep telling myself I don't want to make like turn-based combat like this, but I want something where combat isn't really that important. So the idea was to make an RPG with turn-based combat, where the combat is more of a puzzle than a grind. Something closer to Renowned Explorers on the PC, which I'll play again, because that's a laptop-friendly game. I'll pull that out and play that later. Like, Revelations Persona was kind of like that on the PlayStation 1. A game where combat wasn't just about mashing on the attack button like this game. It was a game about, like... What was that? It was a game about understanding what enemies you're fighting and choosing the most appropriate menu option to defeat the enemies. So it wasn't a game about grinding enemies for loot. It was about experimenting with different kinds of strategies for dealing with certain mobs. At least conceptually that's what it was about. Scratch one. I'm gonna need to heal myself at some point, huh? Take on the dude at the bottom. He has the least health. Speaking of which, was it Dragon Quest, was it 2 and 3? Is it Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 got remade recently? It was a 2.5D remake. It looks like Octopath Traveler, which I haven't played on this channel. Live Alive, which I have played, but I don't think I put the videos up on this channel. I have Live Alive behind me. That's another video game I'm going to pull out eventually, kind of see if I like it. It's not going to hold up. I think half of the games... It's a game where you choose 5 different characters, and they each have completely different mechanics in terms of how... Like, one of the characters you can play as is basically a top-down stealth action game, where you occasionally get into fights, but you're not supposed to get into fights. And one of the games is a sort of a visual novel where you're controlling a robot that's on a space station. But I think a couple of those games, or a couple of those characters are actually kind of useful. Because a couple of those characters were like, they were traditional turn-based games, turn-based strategy games, or turn-based combat-driven games. But the stories were more interesting. And it's one of those, like, it's one of those mid-90s, like, late Super Famicom RPGs where they said, you know what? Let's experiment with what an RPG can be. So the argument seemed to be, let's do like a Romancing Saga-like thing, I suppose. Where let's not just have like a linear quest. Let's have characters choose between different. What's that for me? Is he stunned? He might be blocking. Actually, I have to heal. Let a weakened enemy go free. We could try that. Let's see if we can heal ourselves here. Can we escape? Okay, we escaped. Can I heal myself? Because Rocky's not looking too good. Hey, Rocky, let's pull a rabbit out of my hat. Can I use spells here? Yeah, I don't think I can use spells here. Speed ring and a power ring. Can I switch characters? Not easily. Power ring. Yeah, let's put a ring on the animal. What could possibly go wrong? There's no equipment here. Hopefully if the character dies, it won't lose all this good loot. You give her the speed ring. Yeah, I can't switch characters. So I guess we min-maxed a little bit. So we're doing the Grandia thing, where we fight enemies with a stick and a pot on our head. What? No log as a shield? No, like, plank to use as a wooden shield? Very old school. Star fragments. But yeah, I want to look into what the Lua language is, because someone mentioned they made a game in Lua. I mean, is it a text-driven game? Because if it's a text language like Perl, then yeah, anyone can make a video game if you're willing to deal with text. Remember, Zork was a text game. It was a text-driven RPG. Anyone can make a video game that's text-driven. You can make a choose-your-own-adventure story in text. I did a choose-your-own-adventure story in HTML for a web page in university. So it's not always about, like, you know, real-time nonsense. If you want to make a video game that's text-driven, that's decision-driven, that's choice-driven, you can. Just a matter of how you want to present the information visually. And I'm not any good at that. But if you want to design a game, sure, like, what's Balatro? It's playing cards, right? Do that. I haven't played Balatro yet. It's available for like $20 on Steam, I think. No, it's like a $20 Switch game. I thought it was like a $5 Steam game. I have to double check. Or I might be confusing it with another Steam game. Yeah, like Vampire Survivors. Same deal. So I can't heal my character, can I? Unlimited use sounds amazing. Stamina. Okay. It's health. So I can't do any spells from here. Or it's not a skill, I suppose. Does the animal have any skills? The music is pretty good. This isn't a Tenpei Sato soundtrack, is it? Whoever, I forget who the composer was behind this Gaia. I can't run. I can't run here.
そこは一年中雪と氷に覆われた場所。厳しい寒さの中、小さな魔物たちは身を寄せ合うようにして生活している。三日月のような形の巨大な丘の先端から作られるつららが吹雪の風で震え、独特の音色を奏でることからこう呼ばれる。氷月の丘と。ここが氷月の丘か。綺麗なところだけど、寒い。氷月の丘は辺り一面雪景色。元気な優でもさすがにこたえる寒さです。このくらいの寒さなら我慢できるもんね。ブーブル。それでこれからどうしようか。コンコはフクロウじいさんなら花咲く森のことを知っているかもしれないと言います。フクロウじいさん？フクロウじいさんは氷月の丘の森の奥に住む雪フクロウの長老で、とても物知りで有名だとコンコは説明します。なるほど、それは期待できるね。行ってみよっか。ユウたちはフクロウじいさんに会うために氷月の丘を進んで行きます。
We have to go north. So we're going up at some point. Is there a skill I can use here? I can heal? Nah. Can't use any skills. Amazing. Let's beat these things up. We might let the weakened enemy go free if it comes to that. Can't move sometimes. Release. Static cling. Release didn't work. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'll try that a couple more times. Gonna weaken it a little bit more. So we'll defend here. I let it go free, but it's not leaving. Oh well, let's just beat it up. I tried. I tried the less violent option. The less fatal option. Oh well. Guess he didn't want it. Level up. I need to heal myself, unfortunately. Took a few hits there. Yeah, I can't heal myself. I mean, I have no spells that can heal me, so that kind of sucks. I should have bought a few more items before I left, huh? Typical RPG stuff. Go. Auto saving. We can run, right? Bye. Yes, we'll just complete our mission and leave. Oh, we can't go up there, huh? That'd be more than one way around. So I'm gonna have to take the long way around. What does that do? It's a phoenix down. Revives enemy. Revives an ally who's fallen. Fine. So there's no run button, huh? So we're gonna have to go down and around, I bet. Yeah, we're gonna have to go down and around. Gotta unfog the map. Yeah, let's not waste our 4 energy here. We're gonna get chilled, so be careful. So while the music is good, it's kind of embarrassing that the combat's very simplistic, I'm afraid. So that's not gonna work for me. Like how long? Like we'll have to play for another 2 hours just for the game to get interesting. Like I could be playing Brigandine right now. Like, what's the point? Well, I guess he can't move now. So he got chilled and now he's just completely frozen. Fine. Does it get better? I can't tell. We'll find out later, I guess. My backlog is too ridiculously... My backlog is too ridiculous. There's no reason for me to play this for another 5 hours. So what RPG should I... Well, I'm not going to play Brigandine now. That's the opposite of a brain-off RPG. Can't pause here. So we'll take out the chiller. Because he's the guy who's going to be a problem for us. So he tried to do Cling. Okay, see if we can kill this guy before we get frozen over completely. Wackety wackety. So on my to-do list is what function does Lua use? Just what is Lua best at? Because obviously every language is good at something specific. Like I was talking about machine language earlier. If you were creating NES games, you had to. You didn't really have a choice. You could. I mean, what's the point? Why would you create an NES game with BASIC? Is there a BASIC interpreter for? Because remember, when the NES came out, you were developing games using the language of the computer chips they were using in that console, because there were computer chips in that Famicom. The NES was the Nintendo Family Computer, and it was just a computer that was based on. It was a user-friendly computer that played cartridges like every other console, but they had to use this. Can I run away? So we're gonna run. Okay, we're out. It was designed basically. You had computer chips that were used, I think, in the Donkey Kong arcade game. Consumer-friendly versions of that computer chip. So people at Nintendo and HAL and Micronics over in Japan, the folks who worked on the original, Finally, why couldn't you help me during those fights when I was getting my butt kicked? Like, Micronics was working on the first batch of Capcom games, like Ghouls and Ghosts, 1941, stuff like that, or 1942, I forget the name. But Akari Warriors 1 and 2, I think they were a PC software developer, and they were familiar with the hardware inside of the Famicom. So they were working on the original batch of really ugly, really barely competent Famicom games. I probably should have run away. Uh-oh. I guess run. So we can heal, that's good. Couldn't escape, that's bad. Okay, so I can escape and then attack, huh? Okay, fine. Good, that was a miss. So, am I getting energy back after every turn, or am I getting health back after every turn? Okay, so I can run, and if it doesn't work, then I can fight. Okay, that's okay. I'm okay with that. It seems like a reasonable idea. Am I healed? No. I think I got my energy back, though. By the way, what did I earn? That item I picked up. That'd been some magic fruit. Too bad I can't heal myself with it. That would have been nice. I can shop for some more items. I have plenty of, so we're using shells as a currency. But yeah, on the NES and the Famicom, they were using machine language because that was what the engineers at the time knew. They knew assembly language for the chips inside the Famicom. That's how they made their games work. We can buy 5 of these. Should be fine. Repels monsters for 50 paces, except strong ones. Removes the chilled effect. Might want one of those, I guess. Deals ice damage. Well, we're in a cold area. It's probably not going to be that useful here. So I think one fight gives me enough money to buy a power fruit, so that's good. No scrolling needed. What am I selling? Oh, should I be eating these endurance seeds? Maybe later. Let's see, what do we got? The Pokedex. Yeah, the Pocket Monster Dex. Yeah, the Bestiary. A fun fact. Will become visible if you choose to observe. Okay. Examine new monsters, and we'll consider it, I guess. Of course, I beat this one up. So we would have to observe it. Weaknesses hit. But yeah, that was the thing on the NES. They were doing machine language development. So, like I said, Python is considered good for like text processing and GUI, I guess. GUI development. Perl is really good for text processing, which is why a lot of big data, a lot of data scientists use them. Because apparently they're really good at filtering through lots of data and kind of parsing it. They're good at parsing data, so that if you have a lot of letters and numbers, it's pretty good at like separating them into useful fields for data analysis. I suppose that's what people are using it for. You can process text with C and C++ too, but Perl kind of bakes in that text processing so that it's easier for the average person to get into it. Because that's the thing, these you don't have to like learn a whole new language to do very basic, software development with Perl. That's the reason why I started learning it. Is that it's a tool you can use if you want to like do lots of text processing. I guess we can buy one more of those. Okay, so we'll keep a few more of these around just in case we need them. There might not be any other way for me to heal at this point. It's Japanese RPG, you gotta hoard potions, am I right? I mean, I played a couple of RPGs where there's healing outside of every fight automatically. So the idea is that if you get all of your health back at the end of a fight, then you can make the fights harder. Because the enemies aren't whittling you down over the course of a gauntlet. Every fight it potentially becomes fatal, because if you design the enemies to potentially kill you every time you meet them, then it's okay to like heal yourself at the end of every fight automatically. But then the argument is that if enemies don't kill you, they can still force you to use magic, and magic does not regenerate after every fight. So instead of whittling down your health, you're just whittling down your magic or your mana or your skill points or whatever. So that's a thing. But yeah, I'm curious. Like, again, I think Ruby was an interpreted language that was used for some really quick database development. Like if you really wanted to spit out a really quick database, Ruby was apparently good for that. You can create databases using SQL. It's just that, and there are small there are light database clients. I used a couple of them where it's like if you just want to spit out, like I said, like I use Excel for like really simple databases, like I said, like catalogs of video games, stuff like that. But if you want to get fancier with that stuff, then you start using SQL to like combine databases that have a large amount of data. Instead of just having one kind of data, you can have multiple kinds of data. Like I guess the best way to describe it is, if you have a database of video games you own, like a catalog, let's say you want to combine that database with like a database with like a master database that includes barcode numbers or zebra codes, UPC codes. That's where your database gets really useful, because if you can get, like for instance, every one of the games I own has a barcode on it, a UPC code. So if you can combine my catalog with a UPC code, then that means I have access to far more data, because barcodes and UPC codes are where you can start doing the really fancy stuff. That's when because you can track video games by title, or if you have a UPC code, you can track video games by platform and title. So then you can start doing price comparisons. Then you can start doing you can start doing price tracking. You can start doing like other kinds of database management. Like if Wikipedia lets you track video games based on title and platform and software developer or whatever. But if you can start tracking video games by UPC code, then that means you can start doing fancier stuff, like I said. That's why you would start using SQL to combine databases. To combine a UPC code with a traditional video game database. So my video game database can be combined with, say, a UPC database of video games. And if that is done, then what that lets you do is, I'm going this way, right? Yeah, we're going this way. But if you're able to combine if you have access to a UPC database, that means you can start doing things like I said, tracking my video game catalog. Then you can start doing a backlog tracker. Like I think there's a website called Backlog where you can like look at all the video games you've played and how you feel about them. You can rank them. It's like Letterboxd. It's like IMDb for video games. It's like my anime list for video games. But the idea is that if you have access to a UPC code, then you can start doing really fancy stuff. I can't escape here. Then you can start doing things like I said, like Jeff Gerstmann's ranking all of the NES games. So you can combine the UPC database with his ranking of NES games. And then you can start doing things like comparing my list to his list, comparing my catalog to his catalog. You can start looking at, who are the developers of all the NES games, who are all of the... We need to heal ourselves. This is bad. Probably should have saved my game. Now we can escape. So I gotta heal myself. So again, if you have access to a UPC database, you can start combining your databases with other people's lists. And then you can start getting fancier with it. Now, he's able to do a list of... He's able to play all NES games that were released in North America, because obviously he's using an emulator and a ROM list he downloaded from someplace. Well, let's just pretend he had access to all these games and he made backup copies himself. Whatever. We want to heal, right? That'll do for now. It's a good thing I bought all this power fruit. So I think if someone had access to a UPC data set, that would be good. The one thing I could provide, because Nintendo released a PDF several years ago on their website of all... Let's heal ourselves here. Of all Game Boy games. So if you have access to a UPC database of those games, you can do a lot with that list.
この辺りにいるの？そのはずだけど。
It's something I might do, actually.
と、コンコは自信なさげに辺りをキョロキョロ見回します。その時、頭上からほっほーと鳴き声が聞こえてきました。
Tennessee's made it a football game against Washington. Washington got 28 points. They're leading 28-0.
木の枝に年老いたフクロウが止まっているのが見えました。あ、もしかしてフクロウじいさん？そうじゃが、見ん顔じゃな。人間の子よ。フクロウじいさんはユウの顔をいぶかしげに眺めます。あ、私はユウって言います。はじめまして。ふむ、はじめまして、ユウとやら。それで、こっちは雪狐一家のコンコじゃな。家族が大変な目に遭っているようじゃが、お主は無事なのか？コンコはコンコンコンとフクロウじいさんに説明を始めました。なるほど、花咲く森か。え、知ってるの？いや、知らんな。見たことも聞いたこともない。じゃが、光る不思議な花びらが香港のもとへ飛んできたのも事実じゃ。もしそんな森があるとしたら、あそこかもしれん。どこどこ？と身を乗り出すユウ。フクロウじいさんは話を続けます。空から氷月の丘を見渡せる鳥ですら、花咲く森なんてものは見たことがない。となれば、考えられる場所は一つ。氷月の丘の中心にいつも風雪が吹き荒れている場所がある。そこは気流が荒くて上空を飛ぶことはできず、視界も悪いため中がどうなっているのかは全く知られていない。この氷月の丘で花咲く森が隠れることができるのはここくらいじゃろう。これを持っていきなさい。話を終えたフクロウじいさんは穴の開いたデコボコの石をユウに渡します。なにこの石？あ あれ、あったかい。お主みたいな薄着の格好ではあの風雪に一時と耐えられんじゃろう。その石には体を芯から温める力がある。持っていきなさい。いいの？ありがとう。今子の家族を助けるためじゃ。このくらいの協力はさせておくれ。それとここ数日この辺りで見かけたことのない凶暴な魔物がたびたび目撃されているようじゃ。十分気をつけるようにな。わかった。気をつける。そして二人は何度もお礼を言いながらフクロウじいさんの住処を後にしました。
So where do I set up my manual save? No. I could do a quick save. So now what? Go to Blizzard Forest. It's further all the way down there. Would it be faster for me to just go back home, probably? I'm not opposed to that. They want me to go down and around, possibly? There's a fountain and a peddler. Oh, that's how I got here. So can I go down? Do you have an excuse to actually end the video here? Then we get into another fight, I will. Yeah, thanks for the tip. So we'll go south, then we'll come back in a second. See where the game wants us to go from here. Obstacle and a treasure chest. That's gonna make things a bit more interesting. I like how the dragon is actually useful here and not in a fight. Amazing. Give me the loot. So we're going here. So yeah, I've been meaning. So again, I'm not gonna. If I could, I would make a UPC code list for all the games on Reddit, because I don't know who has access to that stuff. Because I'm very curious if anyone on Reddit has access to a data set that includes all of the Game Boy games, all the NES games. Oh crap! Can we leave now? It's a bit much. Yeah, okay, we can leave. That was kind of much. So that was going to be a problem. So I can't go this way. They probably want me to go down and around. Can we fast travel here? Well, it said they had unlimited use of the thing, so I automatically did it. I already did a quick save, so let me do a quick check on something. So we'll end the video by having me test out this item I got in my inventory. That lets me fast travel back home. So I can't use it here? Wait, why can't I use that? Teleports you to the monster village. So why can't I use it here? Probably under items and not inventory. Unlimited use, right? Well, they're still here. So if I go back to Blizzard Forest... So it would be all the way up here. Alright, so we're not saving that. Alright, so we'll come back and play more of this game later. This is video number 2 of The Cruel King and the Great Hero. What I will do is I'll get more of the music. So I'll capture that by turning off the audio. And in fact, I'll let the music play us out. Sounds like a good idea. Good music so far. I'll sample it a bit later. So this is supposed to be a discussion about the video game. It wound up being a discussion about computer science. You're welcome. I told you this was an educational channel, kind of. A little bit.